principles of policing were formulated in the early 19th century against the backdrop of significant social and political changes in England. During this time, industrialization and urbanization led to rapid population growth and societal challenges, including rising crime rates, social unrest, and the need for effective law enforcement. In response to these challenges, Sir Robert Peel, a British statesman and Home Secretary, introduced the Metropolitan Police Act in 1829. This legislation created the Metropolitan Police in London, marking the birth of the world's first modern police force. Peel's vision for the Metropolitan Police was shaped by his belief in the importance of maintaining public order and preventing crime through a professional and accountable police force. His ideas and philosophy are taught throughout police work, and he is touted as being the father of modern police. He aimed to establish an organized and disciplined police service that would serve as a model for other cities and countries. To articulate the guiding principles and philosophy behind the new police force, Peel outlined the 9 principles of policing. These principles were enshrined in the Act and became the foundation of the Metropolitan Police's approach to law enforcement. The Peelian Principles sought to establish a unique relationship between the police and the public, emphasizing the cooperation, trust, and support of the community. Peel recognized the significance of public approval and sought to create a police force that operated with the consent and respect of the people it served. The principles also emphasized the importance of professionalism, accountability, and the limited use of force. Peel recognized that the police should maintain political neutrality, prioritize the prevention of crime, and exercise their powers judiciously and with the least necessary force. The introduction of the Metropolitan Police Act and the Peelian Principles represented a significant departure from previous law enforcement practices, which often relied on ad hoc constables, watchmen, and fragmented systems of local control. The success and effectiveness of the Metropolitan Police and the Peelian Principles in London prompted their adoption and adaptation in other parts of the United Kingdom and beyond. They influenced the development of modern policing practices and became a foundational concept in shaping law enforcement agencies around the world. Today, the Peelian Principles continue to guide discussions on police reform, community policing, and the relationship between the police and the public. They serve as a reminder of the importance of community engagement, accountability, and maintaining public trust in modern policing. The Peelian Principles emphasize the philosophy and approach to policing, focusing on the relationship between the police and the public. Here is a description of the Peelian Principles. To prevent crime and disorder, as an alternative to their repression by military force and severity of legal punishment. To recognize always that the power of the police to fulfill their functions and duties is dependent on public approval of their existence, actions, and behavior, and on their ability to secure and maintain public respect. To recognize always that to secure and maintain the respect and approval of the public means also the securing of the willing cooperation of the public in the task of securing observance of laws. To recognize always that the extent to which the cooperation of the public can be secured diminishes proportionately the necessity of the use of physical force and compulsion for achieving police objectives. To seek and preserve public favor, not by pandering to public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolutely impartial service to law and complete independence of policy, and without regard to the justice or injustice of the substance of individual laws, by ready offering of individual service and friendship to all members of the public without regard to their wealth or social standing, by ready exercise of courtesy and friendly good humor, and by ready offering of individual sacrifice in protecting and preserving life, to use physical force only when the exercise of persuasion, advice, and warning is found to be insufficient to obtain public cooperation to an extent necessary to secure observance of law or to restore order, and to use only the minimum degree of physical force which is necessary on any particular occasion for achieving a police objective. To maintain at all times a relationship with the public that gives reality to the historic tradition that the police are the public and that the public are the police. The police being only members of the public who are paid to give full-time attention to duties which are incumbent on every citizen in the interests of community welfare and existence. To recognize always the need for strict adherence to police executive functions, and to refrain from even seeming to usurp the powers of the judiciary of avenging individuals or the state, and of authoritatively judging guilt and punishing the guilty. To recognize always that the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, and not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with them. These Peelian Principles reflect a community-oriented and service-oriented approach to policing, emphasizing the importance of the police and the public working together to maintain public safety, order, and trust. They continue to influence modern policing practices and the development of police-community relationships. Securing and maintaining the public's approval is crucial for the police to effectively carry out their duties and maintain public trust. Here are some key aspects of how the police can work to secure and maintain the public's approval. Community engagement. The police can engage with the community through various means, such as community meetings, outreach programs, and partnerships with community organizations. Actively listening to community concerns, addressing their needs, and involving them in decision-making processes help build positive relationships and garner public approval. Transparency and accountability. The police must operate transparently and be accountable for their actions. This includes being open about policies, procedures, and the use of force, as well as promptly addressing misconduct or allegations of wrongdoing. Transparent and accountable practices help maintain public confidence and demonstrate a commitment to serving the community's best interests. Fair and unbiased treatment. Treating all individuals fairly and impartially is essential for securing public approval. Police officers should strive to avoid biases, stereotypes, and discriminatory practices. Demonstrating fairness and impartiality in law enforcement actions helps build trust and ensures that the police are seen as acting in the best interests of the entire community. Proactive problem solving. Taking a proactive approach to addressing community concerns and problems can help secure the public's approval. This involves identifying underlying issues, collaborating with community members to develop solutions, and implementing strategies that go beyond traditional law enforcement. By actively addressing community needs and working together to find solutions, the police can foster a sense of ownership and approval from the public. Effective communication. Clear and open communication is essential for building and maintaining public approval. The police should provide timely and accurate information about crime trends, initiatives, and community safety issues. Engaging with the public through regular updates, social media platforms, and public awareness campaigns helps to establish transparency and keep the community informed. Professionalism and ethical conduct. Upholding high standards of professionalism and ethical conduct is vital for maintaining the public's approval. Police officers should demonstrate respect, empathy, and integrity in their interactions with community members. Training programs that emphasize ethical decision-making, cultural sensitivity, and de-escalation techniques contribute to maintaining public confidence. Responsive and accountable complaint mechanisms. Establishing effective complaint mechanisms allows community members to voice concerns, report misconduct, or provide feedback about police services. It is essential to address complaints promptly, fairly, and transparently. A responsive and accountable approach to handling complaints demonstrates a commitment to addressing grievances and maintaining public trust. Continuous improvement and learning. The police should be open to feedback, adapt to changing community needs, and engage in continuous learning and improvement. This can involve assessing and refining policing strategies, incorporating community input, and staying up to date with best practices and advancements in law enforcement. Demonstrating a commitment to ongoing improvement helps ensure that the police meet the evolving expectations of the public. By actively implementing these measures and fostering positive relationships with the community, the police can work towards securing and maintaining the public's approval. Building trust and maintaining a positive reputation are essential for effective policing and the overall safety and well-being of the community. Misconduct and abuse of power. Instances of police misconduct, including excessive use of force, racial profiling, corruption, or unethical behavior, can significantly damage public trust and approval. High-profile cases of misconduct, particularly when not adequately addressed or punished, can create a perception that the police are not being held accountable for their actions. Lack of transparency. When the police are perceived as being secretive or withholding information, it can erode public approval. A lack of transparency in policies, procedures, and investigations can lead to suspicion and a sense that the police are not acting in the best interests of the community. Bias and discrimination. Perceived or actual biases in policing, such as racial or ethnic profiling, can lead to a loss of public approval. When community members feel unfairly targeted or discriminated against based on their race, ethnicity, or other characteristics, it undermines trust and the perception that the police are serving the entire community impartially. Ineffective communication. Poor communication between the police and the public can contribute to a lack of approval. When the police fail to effectively communicate with the community about their activities, initiatives, or crime trends, it can lead to misinformation, mistrust, and a sense of disconnection between law enforcement and the public they serve. Inadequate response to community concerns. If the police fail to address community concerns and needs in a timely and meaningful manner, it can erode public approval. Ignoring or downplaying issues raised by the community can create a perception that the police are not responsive to the needs and priorities of the people they are meant to serve. Lack of diversity and representation. When police forces do not reflect the diversity of the communities they serve, it can contribute to a loss of public approval. The underrepresentation of certain groups can lead to a perceived lack of understanding, cultural sensitivity, and inclusivity in policing practices. Inappropriate use of force. Instances of excessive or unjustified use of force by the police can damage public approval. When force is used inappropriately, particularly resulting in serious injuries or fatalities, it can generate widespread outrage and erode trust in the police's ability to protect and serve the community. Failure to address systemic issues. If the police are seen as perpetuating or not adequately addressing systemic issues such as racism, inequality, or social injustice, public approval can decline. The failure to address underlying problems that contribute to crime, such as poverty, lack of access to resources, or systemic discrimination, can lead to a perception that the police are not effectively addressing community needs. Addressing these factors requires proactive efforts from law enforcement agencies to promote accountability, transparency, unbiased practices, and community engagement. Rebuilding public approval involves actively listening to community concerns, implementing meaningful reforms, and fostering positive relationships based on trust and mutual respect.